I'm the first at the talks Why I'm a Christian for 2025. And my name is Adela Brňáková. I wonder how many of you can pronounce my surname, because it's not a very usual one. It's usual for my country, but not for England, and it means a person coming from the town called Brno in Czech. So as I say, my name is Adela, and I was born in Czechoslovakia in a town called Snina. And currently it's called Slovakia. It's very eastern part of Slovakia, and Snina is based very eastern part of Slovakia. We have beautiful mountains, and we are based around 30 kilometers from the border with Ukraine, and a similar distance to Poland. We are also close to Hungary. My dad is Czech and mom is Slovak, so I can still call myself Czechoslovak. I was born during communism and was 7 when the regime stopped. I was also baptized in a Greek Orthodox church in the village my mother was born. Although my mother was the 7th child, her grown-up siblings did not have much interest in her. So my godmother was mom's best friend and a strong churchgoer, and my godfather was a distant relative of my mom. Godparents gave me golden earrings and a necklace, as it's custom when a baby girl is born, and I'm still wearing these, so you can see it today on. That picture is not that great, but yeah. Anyway, my mom was very religious and kept taking me and my sister to the Greek Orthodox Church in my town since childhood. My dad was bitter about Christianity, as he believed lots of people who go to church are the biggest thieves in society and don't feel ashamed of it. So he was also forced to go to Catholic church when young and didn't have a proper relationship with God, so never went to church with us. One day, my godmother told my mom there was an opportunity to go to the first communion in the Catholic Church. So mom enrolled me at 12-year-old and my sister 14 years old. I had to learn a lot of basic religious knowledge and also go to church often. I loved speaking out prayers during the service with an earnest heart. When the first communion came about, I got chickenpox from a friend, so I couldn't attend the ceremony. However, nuns arranged for me to join the later ceremony that was with 9-year-old children. I don't know if I looked different to them, but my neighbor lent me her white First Communion dress, and Dad didn't want to, as Dad didn't want to waste money to buy clothes. We were in a financial difficulty, and he just refused any extra expenses on clothes for me. So as it was a custom, I could wear that dress for the whole week to church. I was so extremely happy. I went to church every day that week. Afterwards, I was voluntarily involved with nuns, joined Bible studies with priests, often visited the missionary center, and joined Sunday service choir for children. I loved the overnight adoration of the Eucharist of the first Friday of each month. I was diligently confessing my sins every month to be able to receive Eucharist each time I go to church. From the service part, I loved most the shaking of hands and wishing the person peace and receiving the Eucharist. Eucharist was holy to me, as I thought Jesus was inside me at that very moment, no matter whether I was good enough. I visited nuns weekly and we prayed together. On one occasion, I prayed deeply, thinking about those lost souls of people who died and ended up in hell, and felt extremely sorry for them not to be able to go to heaven. That night, I had a dream seeing Jesus on the cross, suffering. This dream happened for 3 nights. I reported this to the nun, and she gave me a beautiful metal cross with Jesus as a necklace. My dad, although not really religious, made for me a nice wooden cross to which we have attached it and framed this into a picture. That's just an example, because I don't have the real photo, but these are the pictures of my church back home. While 12 to 18 years old, many sad things happened. The big industrial company in my town went bankrupt, so my mom lost her job and my dad was just hanging on to some really badly paid job. This was the worst time our family of 4 experienced. At one Christmas, my mom couldn't even buy us Christmas presents. My dad didn't think of it as anything necessary, but Mom really wanted us to feel Christmas, as I believed Jesus gave us presents. So while confessing her sins to an old priest who was helping out, she shared her suffering of not being able to buy anything for us. That priest took out his purse and gave her money. That year, I received the best Christmas gift ever. It was a teddy bear that looked like a fox. I called it Teresa. It's an example, I don't have the real picture, sorry. But it was similar. My sister received a lion. I only knew years later how my mom managed to get us those nice gifts. It also proven that God sees our suffering and helps us when we are at our lowest. Also, my grandfather died in an accident, so there was even bigger impact on us. My dad's father raised domestic animals, and whenever they slaughtered some, they sent us meat. We also traveled twice a year for holiday to see our grandparents. This was the only holiday we could afford since childhood. After that, we never went for holidays. Regarding Mom's parents, we stopped visiting them when I was around the age of 7. They lived just 10 kilometers away, but some of my aunties made a huge commotion when we visited and wouldn't allow us even inside a gate. My parents' finances were also low because my mom's family didn't like us and even cheated my mom of inheritance. On some of the land Mom inherited, we started growing crops out of necessity. That's the village where we grew crops. That was really hard as the field was up the hill. We had to cycle 8 kilometers to get there and then manually work. This was exhausting. At that time, my mom had an accident on the bike while returning home and ended on crutches to this day. I also experienced working in the forest as a 16-year-old for a short period of time. As a 15-year-old, I changed from primary to high school. The school I went to was an industrial engineering school, and I majored in technical and industrial studies leading to different job industries in mechanical engineering or working in simple accounting, secretarial industry or IT, or leading into mechanical engineering university degree. It had a real variety of views, so it was very good school in my town. I found a classmate who suggested going to church together. I was delighted and started going to church each day. I also took my best friend, who was Orthodox faith, to this church. I soon had an argument with my classmate because her purpose was to look at the boys ministering at the altar rather than faith. Thus, our relationship was getting worse, and later on, I only went with my best friend. So that's the outside of the church, and inside, that's the new part of the church. The old part is much smaller. I gained a lot of respect from my priest and from the old ladies in the church. I realized only later that my approach was too serious and sincere. That's why they liked me. I was asked several times to become a nun. I refused, as that wasn't what I wanted. My dad was also anxious that I would become a nun, as all my classmates and people who knew me thought so and tried to prevent me from going to church. But I was a diligent student, so he couldn't restrict me. After reaching 18 and graduating high school, I left home for the first time and went abroad as a nanny to Austria. While studying German at the language school in Salzburg, I made my first email and started exploring the internet. We didn't have a PC at home, and what I learned at school back home in IT classes were just programs and nothing exciting. So now I had my opportunity to meet with people online. I made a male friend who kept writing to me even after I returned home. We sent each other emails or letters. This was exciting. Afterwards, to continue with my German, I went as a nanny to Munich in Germany. This was the best time of my life, staying with my German family. I felt like a fish in the water. We played cushion fights, read Indian battles, went swimming together, played in the garden. Au pair mother was very kind to me, and we sang in the same classical music choir. I learned a lot about singing through this. I went each Sunday to Catholic church at Marienplatz and enjoyed listening to the organ at the end of the service. I felt holiness in that church. When visiting many years later, I was touched just by coming in. Maybe it has something to do with my German genes from my mom's side, but I felt full of grace. During this time, my online friend visited me for the first time and was fascinated by my belief in God. He was an atheist, but open to understanding what makes me a believer. Upon my return to Slovakia, I wanted a German-related job. I moved to Prague, where my dad worked. I met with my online friend again. My dad met him too. Dad said, "This guy is good, so I should become his girlfriend." I didn't have this intention, but I believed my dad, so pushed myself to start thinking about the guy. One day, he invited me to his house in Pilsen, the beer town. I came with my sister and he made fun of me the whole day. I was very upset, and the next day I tried making fun with wrong words. He got offended, and our relationship slowly disappeared. The other reason was that he wanted more than just holding hands if we would become a couple. This was unacceptable for me, as I believed all should happen only after wedding. Although I knew he wouldn't be a good choice for me, I still didn't want to accept the end of our friendship, so I became upset with God. I never asked anything from God till then. I just wanted that relationship to last. However, we completely separated from then on. I thought God was unfair. I never made any dreams, as nothing in my life ever worked. I just wanted to keep this friendship. Because of the outcome, I was really angry with God and stopped going to church and praying. I used to pray every day, Rosemary, and go to church. From that day, I stopped. I felt God was telling me in the evening, "Please, talk to me." But I answered, "If you don't want to give me this one thing, I don't want to talk." This went on for several months, even after I returned to Slovakia. While in Prague, job hunting was difficult. I wanted to work for a company associated with German language, but during group interviews I couldn't sell my knowledge, so I was unsuccessful. Therefore, I decided to become a German translator, but had to do a degree. I signed up for university in Brno in Czech Republic. However, they required entry exam from another language on top of German language. Thus, I decided to learn English and came as a nanny to the UK. I traveled 30 hours by bus and entered London on the 26th of February 2006. Imagine 30 hours in the bus was a killer. My first week was hard as I couldn't make a sentence and I received a long list of duties to do each day. My nanny position was more like a servant. I bought a book someone recommended me to learn English quickly. I lasted in that family only a month and left very unhealthy. One member of the family ate something from the fridge and didn't let mother know, so I was accused. Thus, I was scared to eat their food and lived on toast bread, salty butter, and cheddar for all 3 meals a day. My second family was much nicer, but because father's income was unpredictable, they had to let me go. They helped me to converse in English on top of what I learned from books. The little girl was a bit difficult as not used to strangers much. I was stressed to do my job well, and because I was anxious, I started to pray a little again. In English class, I met my first friend, a Korean lady. This woman asked me about my faith and wanted me to do Bible studies. I refused. She didn't give up. Her friends were playing football in Hyde Park each Sunday afternoon. She invited me to play together. As I said, I loved playing football. I started associating with this Korean group. They also played a video for me about some events in Korea. This friend had a picture of the man in the video in every room. My English wasn't good yet, so I thought it was the Korean president. In the video, they said president of GACP. So I thought he was the real president and was amazed how religious the Korean president is. As this friend still couldn't make me study Bible, she once invited me into her house and said, "This is Pastor Vivian and she will teach you Bible." I couldn't say no, so I started. I had to buy a German Bible as my English was too limited. These were my beginnings with Somni, or Providence Church, that was established in South Korea, and their leader is Jong Myung-sok. I was invited for their services that were in Korean, and someone translated part of it for me. I liked those songs they sang. It was a house church in my friend's place. Later on, this church moved to a flood. Korean music really touched me, and those stories during sermons were interesting. Explanations of Bible stories with science were also something I never imagined, so I was hooked. I liked the fact that those people wanted to become better people, or at least the sermon was directed at that. The more I got involved, the more tough it became. I had to get up at 3 or 4 a.m. to pray. The service was at 5 a.m. Each day was the same, plus on Wednesday evening, another service took place. Only on Sunday, service started at 10 a.m. I was actually living in that church house. These are the pictures of some of the places we've been. Thinking of it now, most of the year we were either repenting of our sins or giving glory to God. There were endless events taking place, including once a month overnight prayer meeting on Friday evening. I was asked to send letters to that leader and say that I love him. I didn't like this idea, but because I couldn't lie, I have written with love. My feelings, however, were more like a respect to someone who can communicate deeply with God. During those 16 years with them, I loved God and Jesus sincerely to the extreme and tried my best to become a perfect person. Nevertheless, I was always viewed as someone who doesn't love God enough, doesn't do enough for God, and because I didn't want to comply with endless requests to become an evergreen, this is someone who lives only for God, like a tree, evergreen tree that doesn't change its colors of their needles. And I also didn't behave like them, a little bit of a maniac toward that leader guy. I was put in the corner. I was told that I'm lacking, so I cannot get a title. I'm old. I'm not suitable for certain events. I'm doing things wrong. And I was even accused of non-existing sexual sins later on, upon several occasions from the leaders of my church. On the other hand, they didn't mind me doing all that invisible stuff behind the scenes. I used to buy and do flower arrangements, do church accounts, do praise, was in the tech for services, cooked for events, accommodated visitors in my room for free, and sometimes took care of them. I even baked each member a cake for their spiritual and physical birthdays. We had around 23 to 25 members. Those pictures of cakes are just recent ones. I don't have the previous cakes. I wrote Christmas cards for each member, gave gifts specifically selected for each one of them for a few years. I brought bags of food from my catering place each Friday. At one point, the black bag was so heavy that I barely brought it home. I spent a lot of personal money on what I did, but still, I wasn't appreciated and had no friends there apart from 2 people. One was a South African guy. Because I made friends with him, I was accused of sexual sins. The sexual thing was such a hot topic for several years that I was scared to talk to men. Even now, sometimes, if I get a bit friendly with a guy, I back up later. I had to stop greeting my friend back then in public. Later on, I managed to be friendly with him in secret and prayed for him deeply each day. He had issues with drugs, and I was a great help to him. He left the church after some time as it was a cult. I didn't believe it at first, so stayed till much later. Another person who was friendly with me in that church was an English girl who was a bit wild and, as English people say, scatterbrain. I helped her a lot in many ways, physically or financially. During COVID, I sent her home food once a month as I worried she was starving. At the end, after the whole thing blew up and we left, I have deleted her from my contacts as she was wavering whether to go back to that cult and kept bothering me. I also didn't want to be in the group of exiles. While in that cult church, someone received a revelation about me being used by Satan, so I was called in about it. I was really crushed by those words. I hated myself so much that I deleted photos of myself from certain years. I also wrote each member an apology letter. I was then sent to Korea by the leader. While in Korea, I learned that there were different rumors spread about me having sexual sins and me making members leave the church. So I was treated harshly by many members. My life was miserable. I stayed in different places and kept thinking, why was I sent here? I also received a letter from that leader to learn Korean. So after a year, I went back to the UK. I worked for 6 months to earn some money so that I could return to Korea to learn their language. During this time in the UK, leaders accused me of using Korean people. I didn't eat their food while in Korea. I only took some shelter in 9 different places and still was accused of living off people. I was really shocked about this accusation. During Korean studies, my life was difficult again as I didn't have many funds. So I did private English tutoring to pay for my classes. Because of the amount of work I didn't have time to practice my Korean, so failed several classes. I was also constantly tired and hungry. I had only 1 meal a day at students' canteen. I couldn't afford more, but I persevered for 2 years to achieve my goal to learn Korean. I thought my life in the church would be easier then. When I returned to the UK after 2 years, my UK leader was harsh to me and made restriction in rejoining the UK branch. She said I have sexual sins, and as I kept in contact with this South African friend who wasn't even a member any longer. So I had to lie that I cut contact. Later, this friend stopped seeing me because he unintentionally made a child with some girl, and she would be jealous knowing he has a female friend. At that time, I cried for a month without stopping. God took away the only friend I had. Thankfully, I enrolled into psychology degree and could prevent myself from mental breakdown while my suffering in that church continued. So God helped me to see that I wasn't the problem, but those church leaders and the place. I fought a battle to not be hurt and kept losing. One reason was we were told to cut ties with non-member friends and always only pray, so I became very isolated for a long time. Losing my only friend really hit me, and I wasn't able to communicate with people properly to make meaningful connections, although I've been involved in all these groups, trampolining, tennis and everything, but I had no friends. After the movie on Netflix, which was called The Holy Betrayal, I realized how foolish I was to be in that cult church. I left them, but I didn't want to leave God. I was so scared and sorry to God for me being silly, so I decided no matter what, whether I would feel anything or not, I will go to an established church again. Also, I finally made it for the service at St. Paul's Cathedral, which was my dream for several years. Now I had to find a local church near me. This is how I found Christ Church. I also visited the Catholic Church in New Malden, but it didn't appeal, so I decided to carry on with Christ Church. At first, what helped me was Stephen smiling and greeting me, saying he was glad to see me. My heart melted. I was never told in any church they were happy to see me. This made me keep coming. Su Ong was also very nice to me. I was scared to say something wrong, as my social skills at that point were too bad. It took me over a year to not feel anxious about being friendly, and I'm thankful for the positiveness from those 2 people. Sometimes a smile or a simple word can make miracles. In my case, being wanted is a big deal. Later, I was asked to join the praise team. I was delighted and felt God really wants me to sing for him. Through singing, I also made more friends. Looking at those years in that Providence-called church, my personality was suppressed to the extreme, but God protected me because I wanted to love him. So it was easy to leave that place and stay with God. Many who had a title could not let go, as they believed the leader was like God himself. Even after too many years wasted in Providence Church, I don't regret loving God. I only regret not loving him elsewhere. It was my mistake, and because of that, I lost a chance to find a spouse. Not sure whether I can still be blessed to find one and have children, but I know for sure it's not God to be blamed for. Our choices bind us, but God is protecting us. I feel this protection from my birth till now. I was once told that I am hungry for love, and honestly, love is all I always cared about. If I have no love inside me, I cannot live. So, my answer to the question why I am a Christian stands in 1 Corinthians 13. The scripture lifts love above all. It ends with words, and now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.